So I consider myself a fan of Steven Universe like many Star Wars fans consider themselves a fan of Star Wars, where you're all around critical of the majority of the series, but your enjoyment of what is good outbalances that and ultimately keeps you as a fan. Rather than it is mistakes from the Crewniverse or bad business decisions from Cartoon Network, there are some episodes of Steven Universe that can legitimately piss me off. This can stand true with most multi-season television shows, even some of my favorites of all time, but My Little Pony stands out in my mind because it's one of the few multi-season television shows that never had an episode to get such a visceral negative reaction out of me. There are episodes that I think are bad or underwhelming, but nothing so outright atrocious that it will ruin my enjoyment of the entire series. And I think that's because how My Little Pony retains an episodic nature, whilst furthering and changing the series as time progresses. They need to keep characters at a realistic and steady pace for change, so they're not as drastically flanderized as other long-running shows. That makes me say in full confidence that at least every episode of My Little Pony is at the very least tolerable. So that's gotten me to think, is there a My Little Pony episode that is truly awful? One that deserves the energy of one of those classic cartoon rant videos? My first place to search was IMDb, where I sorted through all the episodes to find the lowest rated one of all time. What I found was Season 8, Episode 9, Non-Compete Clause. With a total of 472 user reviews, this stands at 4.4 out of 10 stars on IMDb. This is the only episode of My Little Pony to go below 5 stars. As the second lowest rated episode of all time, Yakety Sax, stands at 5.2 out of 10 stars according to 426 reviews. Is this episode as bad as people say it is?
Stroke! Stroke! Harder! Put your back into it!
Well, let's take a look. This episode has a pretty simple competition plot between Rainbow Dash and Applejack. Every month, the students of the School of Friendship vote on who the best teacher is, and every month, that award goes to Fluttershy. The prideful Applejack and competitive Rainbow Dash both desperately want that award, and try to earn the favor of their students during a field trip. They argue with each other about what activities they should do, then when Twilight catches them arguing, they then start to compete on who can be the most polite teacher, which results in them being indecisive, and not getting anything done. This ultimately results in them getting stuck underneath a makeshift bridge over a stream of deadly fish. The students learn from their teacher's mistakes and join forces to save them. The students even ask Twilight if Rainbow Dash and Applejack can both be the teacher of the month. Applejack and Rainbow Dash argue about who messed up what on the field trip, and then the episode ends. Okay, this episode wasn't egregious, it was just very boring and typical and nothing really too special to write home about. They kind of already did this episode about Applejack and Rainbow Dash needing to learn that competition shouldn't get in the way of friendship. As a matter of fact, this sort of plot was done all the way back in Season 1. Fall Weather Friends is one of the most infamous episodes from Season 1. How did you forget that you already done something exactly like this? Was it for member berries? Was there just a low day? For a season that struggled to balance 6 of its new characters, this could have been a perfect opportunity to do anything with them. But instead, they just kind of dick around and say, man, these two are crazy, right? Meanwhile, Applejack and Rainbow Dash argue and do the same bit over and over and over again until the episode ends. I think the most interesting part about this episode is when Gala said a microaggression towards Yona.
Now take a good deep breath. What do you smell? Yuck.
Where would have that plot gone? Where the students start throwing random stereotypes at each other. You can tell something is very boring when I'm trying to come up with more interesting stories than figuring out what makes this one not work. There's not even a proper resolution at the end of the episode. It just ends with the two characters seemingly learning nothing. Sure, they apologize to each other on the bridge, but that ultimately amounted to absolutely no change. Incomplete. That's why I can describe this episode. It's missing a crucial scene where we see the actions of Applejack and Rainbow Dash after they learn their lesson. It's really hard to give a shit about this episode. It's so throwaway that I forgot it even existed. Just like most of Season 8, which hey, I guess this adds to my anti-Season 8 agenda. Alright, I can't trust IMDb reviews. I need to see a professional. Someone with a rantsona that can cross their arms to tell you that they're very upset. So who better to seek than the mysterious Mr. Enter? Look, his rantsona is crossing his arms in his PFP! You can't get more professional than that. 12 years ago, Mr. Enter declared that the worst episode of My Little Pony is Putting Your Hoof Down. I mean, just look at how he introduces his feelings about the episode.
Out of all the episodes on this list, out of all the episodes of the show to date, this is the only one that I will not willingly watch again. Ever.
That's Mr. Disney Pixar's Turning Red should have done 9/11 himself, so you know he's serious. So this is a pretty iconic season 2 episode. I mean, it introduces the really funny idea of a motivational dude bro speaker in this fantasy land, but this episode also has Fluttershy's absolutely amazing crash out arc. But for some reason, a lot of cartoon reviewers really doesn't like it when characters act mean. They don't see characters with a negative trait to just be a part of the story, but an actual flaw with the writing. Because art is only supposed to make you feel happy. If it ever makes you feel bad or any other negative emotion, then that must mean that thing is also bad. What the fuck? Why did they kill the guy at the end of the Green Mile? That was so mean. If you can't tell by the tone of my voice, this isn't a bad episode at all. It's pretty funny and teaches a very valuable lesson that I wasn't expecting out of a TVY show. A worse show would have just thought that being mean is not okay, but this one took the extra mile to actually say that being assertive is good, when used properly, as it tries to make a clear distinction between being rude and being assertive. It's really hard to be assertive as a kid, that's why bullying is such an issue. It's the perfect topic for a character like Fluttershy to tackle. So if I can't trust IMDb nor the greatest critic ever made, then what is the worst episode of My Little Pony? I guess I'll just have to use my own opinion. This is going to be a lot harder than I thought. So after thinking for an excruciating 2 seconds, I found what I think is the worst episode of My Little Pony. And to me, the worst episode of My Little Pony is Season 9, Episode 21, Daring Doubt. Now the Daring Do episodes were never particularly great. Much like her real-life equivalent, AK Yearling was a character with absolutely zero charisma and was not fun at all to watch in any of the episodes she was in. So this episode is about AK Yearling getting cancelled by Cabularon. He exposes that Daring Do is a real pony, and that the narrative of the stories are manipulated to make her seem like the hero. We already know that Daring Do's middle name is Collateral Damage. The episode Daring Done was all about this, but we as the audience also know that Dr. Cabularon is not a good person. He loves 2 things in life, kidnapping ponies and second-degree murder. But the episode tries to gaslight us into thinking that Cabularon was just misunderstood, with Fluttershy for some reason giving Cabularon a second chance and refusing to listen to her friend who is the element of loyalty. The gaslighting only gets worse in this episode when they reintroduce Arizodal. So Arizodal is one of Daring Do's arch enemies, and is also pretty evil himself. Needless to say, trying to drown a pony as well as leaving an entire planet in sweltering heat for 800 years aren't actions that are going to get you on Santa's nice list. But for some reason, this episode frustratingly forgets about that part, and tries to convince us that Daring Do is unjustifiably stealing his shit.
I'm in charge of protecting this jungle. If another artifact goes missing on my watch, I'm going to be in so much trouble with the other guardian creatures. Now, I must leave to commence the ring-placing ceremony to unleash 800 years of unrelenting sweltering heat!
I'm pretty sure last time she was completely justified. In order to make the theme of listening to all sides of the story work, the writers have to bank on you either being lobotomized or have never watched the previous episode of My Little Pony. It's such a frustrating episode because you have to come into it with the knowledge of the other Daring Do episodes to understand the context of this one, because this episode is attempting to subvert those expectations. But you can't do that if you already have the knowledge that these 2 characters are irredeemable monsters. So who is this episode for? What makes it even worse is that this is the last Rainbow Dash and Fluttershy episode. The last of the entire series. 2 of the most significant and important characters of My Little Pony in the past 9 seasons. And their last spotlight episode is what I consider to be the worst one this series has ever made. What a sick joke. There we go. That's what I was looking for. An episode to bring out my true cartoon reviewer rage. Well, in all seriousness, this episode does blow hard. And it's an episode not enough people are talking shit about. But I want to know what you guys think is the worst episode of My Little Pony and why. Or what is an episode that everyone hates that you love? I would love to read either in the comments below. Anyways, that's all the time I have for today. Thank you for watching. I've been May and I'll see you next time.